Emperor ZYX stood tall in the great meeting hall of the Galactic Council. His body was made of clear crystal that sparkled with angry red light. Around him sat hundreds of alien leaders from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant insects with sharp claws. Others were made of pure energy that glowed and shifted. Many had thick armor covering their bodies or deadly poison dripping from their fangs. In the center of the room, a huge screen showed planet Earth floating in the darkness of space. The blue and green world looked small and helpless among the stars. Cities twinkled like tiny lights on its surface. A few simple spacecraft moved slowly around it. "Look at this pathetic world," ZYX said, his voice booming through the hall. "The humans who live there are the weakest creatures we have ever found. They have no thick skin to protect them. No sharp claws to fight with. They cannot read minds like the telepaths of Rigel. They cannot even breathe in space without their crude machines." The alien leaders made sounds of agreement. Some hissed through their teeth. Others clicked their claws together. A few laughed with voices that sounded like breaking glass. ZYX pointed at the screen with one crystal finger. "Watch how they live," he said. The display changed to show human cities. People walked on streets, worked in buildings, and played in parks. They looked so small and soft compared to the mighty beings in the council hall. "They live for only a few decades," the Emperor continued. "Our shortest-lived species survives for centuries. These humans are gone in a blink of an eye. Their technology is like toys compared to ours. They have barely learned to travel between planets while we cross the entire galaxy in days." The screen now showed human soldiers fighting each other in various wars throughout history. Explosions lit up battlefields. Soldiers fell and did not get up again. Cities burned while people ran in terror. "Worst of all," ZYX said with disgust, "they fight each other constantly. They kill their own kind over pieces of land, over resources, over ideas. What kind of species destroys itself? When our great fleet arrives at their world, they will probably start fighting each other instead of trying to defend themselves." General Vorth, a massive creature with 6 arms and scales like black metal, stood up. "My Emperor," he said in a voice like grinding rocks, "why do we waste time talking about such weaklings? Let us simply take their planet and be done with it." ZYX nodded. "Because, my faithful general, this will be the easiest conquest in the history of our empire. We will barely need to fire our weapons. When they see our mighty ships blotting out their sun, they will fall to their knees and beg for mercy. It will take perhaps a few days at most." The Emperor gestured grandly. "Some of you have questioned whether we should expand our territory to include such a worthless world. I say yes, we should. Not because they have anything we need, but because it will be amusing. We can keep some of the humans as pets in our zoos. Children across the galaxy can come to laugh at the weak little creatures who thought they were the rulers of their tiny world." Admiral Kresk, whose body looked like living liquid metal, spoke next. "What if they try to fight back?" The entire council hall erupted in laughter. The sound was terrible, like 1,000 different monsters all finding the same joke hilarious. ZYX laughed loudest of all, his crystal body flashing with bright colors. "Fight back," the Emperor gasped between laughs. "Look at them. They are soft and weak. They have no natural weapons. Their military uses primitive explosives and simple energy weapons. One of our smallest warships could defeat their entire fleet. No, Admiral Kresk, they will not fight back. They will surrender immediately when they realize how hopeless their situation is." Far away from this council meeting, beyond the edge of Earth's solar system, Captain Lee Hyun sat in the command chair of a hidden space station. The station was built into a large asteroid and covered with technology that made it invisible to most senses. Lee had been watching and listening to alien communications for 5 years, ever since humanity first learned they were not alone in the universe. Lee was a quiet man in his 40s with gray starting to show in his black hair. He had spent most of his adult life in space, first as an explorer and then as a defender of Earth. His dark eyes never showed much emotion, but now they were hard as stone as he watched the alien emperor mock his species. "Recording complete," said Lieutenant Park Mi, the station's communications officer. She was young, barely out of training, but her skills with alien languages were better than anyone else in the defense force. "Should I send this to Earth Command immediately?" Lee nodded slowly. "Send it on the emergency channel. Mark it Priority Alpha." He paused, still watching the screen where the Alien Council was now discussing how to divide up Earth's resources after the conquest. "And Park." "Yes, sir?" "Add a personal message from me. Tell them it's time to activate the Phoenix Protocol." Park's face went pale. Every member of Earth's defense force knew what the Phoenix Protocol meant. It was humanity's last desperate plan for if they were ever faced with a threat they could not handle through normal means. It involved sacrifices that no one wanted to think about. As the hidden station sent its urgent message toward Earth, Lee continued to watch the alien council. The Emperor was still laughing, still making jokes about weak humans who would surrender without a fight. Lee allowed himself a small, cold smile. The aliens were about to learn something that humans had known for thousands of years. The most dangerous enemies were often the ones who looked the weakest. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council meeting. Now Emperor ZYX Thara sat on his golden command throne aboard the massive warship called Eternal Dominance. The ship was so huge that entire cities could fit inside it. Around him, thousands of other alien warships filled the darkness of space like angry metal clouds blocking out the stars. The Emperor felt very pleased with himself. His crystal body glowed with happy blue light as he looked at the reports coming in from his scouts. Earth's defense fleet was rushing out to meet them, just as he had predicted. But what he saw made him laugh out loud. "Only 300 ships," he said to General Vextar, who stood beside the throne like a giant lizard wearing armor. "I brought 10,000 vessels to crush them, and they send 300 tiny craft to stop me? This is even more pathetic than I thought it would be." General Vextar's yellow eyes gleamed with hunger for battle. His forked tongue flicked out to taste the air. "My Emperor, should we destroy them all at once? Or would you prefer to kill them slowly so others can watch and learn what happens when someone fights the Galactic Dominion?" ZYX Thara waved one crystal hand carelessly. "Let them come to us, General. I want to see the fear in their eyes when they realize how hopeless this is. Besides, it will be over so quickly that we might as well enjoy the show while it lasts." The two fleets met near Jupiter, the giant planet with its many moons. The Emperor expected to watch the human ships explode like fireworks within minutes. Instead, something very strange began to happen. The human ships were much smaller than the alien vessels. They looked like tiny insects flying around giant monsters. But instead of fighting the way ZYX Thara expected, they started doing things that made no sense to him. One group of human fighters suddenly disappeared behind Jupiter's largest moon. Seconds later, they came flying out at incredible speed, using the moon's gravity to launch themselves like stones from a slingshot. They crashed into the side of an alien cruiser before anyone could react. "What are they doing?" the Emperor asked, his blue glow turning to confused purple. "That is not how space battles work. You do not use planets as weapons." But the humans kept doing impossible things. When their ships were badly damaged, instead of running away like sensible beings, they turned around and crashed directly into the alien warships. The explosions destroyed both vessels, but the humans seemed to think this was a fair trade. "Sir," called Admiral Thex from his position at the sensor station. "One of our boarding parties has taken a human ship, but—" He paused, his green tentacles writhing with worry. "But what?" ZYX Thara demanded. "The humans are not surrendering. They are still fighting inside their own ship even though we control it. They are using the ship systems against us. Some of them are blowing up parts of their own vessel to kill our soldiers." The Emperor's glow turned angry red. "That makes no sense. Why would they destroy their own property? Are they insane?" Hours passed. Then a full day. Then another day. The quick victory was becoming a long, horrible battle. Reports kept coming in that made less sense each time. A human pilot named Kim Tai had ejected from his exploding fighter, but instead of trying to escape, he had floated through space to an alien supply ship. He attached explosive mines to it by hand and blew himself up along with the ship and all its cargo. Commander Parks led a group of human marines who had somehow gotten aboard one of the largest alien warships. Instead of trying to escape when they were surrounded, they fought their way to the ship's power core. They held their position there for 18 hours against waves of alien soldiers, not because it would help them win the war, but simply because they refused to give up. Lieutenant Kim Na and her crew had been trapped on a damaged human ship for 2 days. When alien boarders finally broke through their defenses, they found that Kim Na and her people had turned the ship's medical bay into a fortress. They fought with whatever they could find, medical tools, pieces of broken equipment, even their bare hands. When rescue finally came, Kim Na was still fighting even though she had been shot multiple times. "How are they still fighting?" ZYX Thara screamed at his generals. His crystal body was now flashing angry red and purple lights. "They should have surrendered by now. Look at them. They are dying by the thousands. Their ships are being destroyed. Why do they keep fighting when they cannot possibly win?" General Vextar studied the battle reports with confusion in his yellow eyes. My Emperor, I do not understand it either. In every previous conquest, the enemy surrendered when they realized defeat was certain. But these humans, they act like every single battle is the most important thing in the universe. They fight like cornered animals, but animals that can think and plan. And they keep doing things wrong, added Admiral Fex. They sacrifice valuable ships and experienced soldiers for no strategic gain. They destroy their own equipment rather than let us capture it. They refuse to retreat even when retreating would let them live to fight another day. It is like they do not understand how war is supposed to work. But the most disturbing reports were still coming in. The alien soldiers who fought the humans face to face were beginning to whisper strange stories. They said the humans never showed fear, even when death was certain. They said human soldiers would keep fighting even when badly wounded, sometimes using their own blood to write messages of defiance on the walls. The Emperor looked out at the battle still raging around Jupiter's moons. 3 days had passed, and his easy conquest had become a nightmare that would not end. After 2 terrible weeks of fighting in space, Emperor ZYXthara's fleet finally reached Earth itself. The Emperor had lost more ships than he cared to count, but he still had thousands left. Surely now the humans would see that fighting was hopeless and surrender. But when the alien ships approached Earth, ZYXthara saw something that made his crystal body dim with shock. Every human city had been turned into a fortress. Tall walls surrounded the buildings. Gun positions covered every rooftop. Even small towns in the countryside bristled with weapons and defensive barriers. Impossible, the Emperor whispered as he watched the planet through his ship's viewing screens. Where did they get the time to build all of this? We have been fighting them for only 2 weeks. Admiral Fex checked his reports with nervous tentacles. My lord, it appears they began these preparations many months ago. Perhaps even before we arrived in their system. They knew we were coming. The Emperor's anger flared hot and red through his crystal form. Then why did they not surrender immediately? Why make us fight for every inch of space if they knew they could not win? But the humans had more surprises waiting. As alien forces tried to land on the planet, they discovered that everyone was fighting. Not just the soldiers, but everyone. Old human men and women worked in factories day and night, making bullets and weapons. Human children carried messages between fighters and helped care for wounded soldiers. Even humans who were too sick or injured to fight found ways to help. In one city, alien soldiers found that human doctors and nurses had turned their hospital into a fortress. They treated wounded human soldiers with one hand while shooting at aliens with the other. When the aliens finally captured the hospital, they found that the doctors had hidden weapons and supplies throughout the building, even in the rooms where sick people lay in bed. The siege began. Days turned into weeks. The Emperor had thought this would be over quickly, but every human settlement fought like it was the most important place in the universe. When aliens captured a building, the humans would blow it up rather than let them use it. When aliens tried to cut off food supplies to a city, the humans somehow found ways to keep fighting anyway. ZYXthara found himself spending more and more time alone in his private rooms. He could not bear to stay on the command bridge where officers brought him bad news every hour. His generals were dying. His soldiers were exhausted and afraid. Some were even starting to whisper that perhaps they should go home and leave Earth alone. One evening, as explosions lit up the planet's surface far below, the Emperor sat in his golden chair feeling very tired. For the first time in many years, he actually looked at the 6 guards who stood around his room. They wore black armor that covered them from head to foot. Dark visors hid their faces. They stood perfectly still and silent, as they always did. Guards, ZYXthara said without much interest, remove your helmets. I want to see the faces of those who protect me during these difficult times. The lead guard stepped forward slightly. My lord, the regulations say that we should. I am your Emperor. ZYXthara shouted, his crystal body flashing with bright angry light. I do not care about regulations. Remove your helmets now. The 6 guards looked at each other. Even though their faces were hidden, the Emperor could somehow sense that they were having a silent conversation. Finally, they reached up to their helmets with slow, careful movements. There was a soft hissing sound as the helmet seals opened. One by one, the guards lifted their helmets away from their heads. As each face was revealed, Emperor ZYXthara felt his entire body growing cold with shock. 6 human faces looked back at him. They had different skin colors and features, but they were unmistakably human. Their eyes were calm and professional, showing no fear even though their Emperor was staring at them in complete horror. The lead guard was a man who looked to be in his 30s. His black hair was cut very short in military style. His dark eyes met the Emperor's gaze without flinching. "My name is Choi Jin," he said in a steady voice. "I used to be a sergeant major in the Earth Defense Force. I have been serving as your personal guard for 8 years, my lord. We all have. We came here as part of the prisoner exchange program after the Rigel sector conflicts." ZYXThara's mind reeled as he tried to understand what he was hearing. You are human," he whispered. "You are the weak species. The species I am trying to conquer. How can you be protecting me?" A woman guard with short brown hair spoke next. "My name is Lee Minute. I was a lieutenant in the Defense Force before I was captured. We were all prisoners of war who volunteered for this assignment." Another guard, a young man who looked barely old enough to be a soldier, added, "I am Park Jun. We have been guarding your life every day for 8 years. We have fought beside your other guards. Some of us have been wounded protecting you from assassination attempts." The Emperor stared at them in complete confusion. His crystal body flickered between different colors as his emotions changed rapidly. These were humans. The same species that was fighting his armies on the planet below. The same species he had called weak and pathetic. But they had been protecting his life for 8 years. "This makes no sense," ZYXThara said, his voice shaking. "Your own people are dying down there. I am the one ordering their deaths. Why would you protect me? Why would you not kill me in my sleep?" Choi Jin's expression never changed. "Because we gave our word, my lord. When we accepted this position, we swore an oath to protect you. Humans do not break their promises easily." The Emperor looked from one human face to another, seeing the same steady determination in all their eyes. It was the same look he had been seeing in the battle reports for weeks. The same refusal to give up that had turned his easy conquest into a nightmare. For the first time since the invasion began, ZYXThara wondered if he had made a terrible mistake about these creatures called humans. Emperor ZYXThara stumbled backward from his golden throne, his crystal body flashing wild colors of shock and confusion. The 6 human faces looking back at him seemed impossible, like a bad dream that refused to end. "You cannot be human," he said, his voice shaking. "Humans are weak. They are the most pathetic species in the galaxy. How could weak creatures like you have been protecting me all these years?" One of the female guards stepped forward. She was a woman with strong shoulders and steady eyes. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" she asked in a calm voice. The Emperor nodded without thinking, still too shocked to speak properly. "My name is Han Sol. I used to be a staff sergeant before I was captured." She looked directly at the Emperor without fear. "We have saved your life 43 times, sir. 43 separate occasions when someone tried to kill you, and we stopped them." ZYXThara's crystal form flickered as he tried to process her words. 43 times. "Yes, sir. Assassination attempts by rival lords who wanted your throne. Poison in your food from kitchen servants who had been bribed. Bombs hidden in gifts from other planets. That big fight with the Thrakari separatists where they attacked your ship directly." Han Sol's voice never changed, staying professional and calm. "We have bled for you, sir. Some of our friends have died protecting you." The Emperor's mind began racing as old memories came flooding back. He remembered now. 3 years ago, a figure in black armor had thrown himself in front of a plasma blast that was meant to kill the Emperor. The guard had been badly burned but survived. ZYXThara had never bothered to learn the guard's name or even look at his face. He remembered another time when attackers had boarded his ship. One of his guards had stayed behind in a corridor, fighting dozens of enemies alone so the Emperor could escape to safety. That guard had not survived, but his sacrifice had saved the Emperor's life. All those years, he had simply expected his guards to protect him. He had never wondered who they were or where they came from. They were just silent figures in armor who did their job without complaint or failure. "But you are weak," the Emperor whispered, speaking more to himself than to the humans. "Your species is inferior. You are fragile creatures without natural weapons or armor." A young male guard smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "With respect, sir, we prefer the word adaptable. We might not have claws like the Viridians or thick shells like the Korthax, but we have something different." He tapped the side of his head with one finger. "We think. We learn. We endure things that would break other species. And we protect what matters to us, even if what matters is someone who thinks we are worthless." "My name is Yoon Bin," the young guard continued. "I was a corporal before I came here. Do you want to know why we really protect you, Emperor? It is not because we fear you or because we want rewards. We protect you because we gave our word. When humans make a promise, we keep it, no matter how hard it becomes. Outside the Emperor's private chamber, the sounds of battle continued to echo through the ship. Officers rushed back and forth with reports from the planet below. Each report brought worse news than the last. General Vextar burst through the door without waiting for permission. His lizard face was twisted with frustration and anger. "My lord, the situation on the planet is getting worse. The humans are not fighting like any enemy we have faced before." "What do you mean?" ZYXTara asked, though he was still staring at his human guards. "They have turned every building into a fortress. Every street corner has become an ambush point. When we capture a neighborhood, the humans blow up the buildings rather than let us use them. When we surround a group of their fighters, they do not surrender. They fight until they are all dead." The general's voice was filled with confusion. "They are not just fighting for territory, my lord. They are fighting like every single human life is the most valuable thing in the universe." Admiral Thex appeared behind the general, his tentacles writhing with nervous energy. "My lord, we have lost more soldiers in the past week than in our last 10 conquests combined. Our troops are beginning to whisper that perhaps we should withdraw." "Withdraw?" ZYXTara's crystal body flared bright red with anger. "We are the Galactic Dominion. We do not withdraw from weak primitives." But even as he said the words, the Emperor found himself looking at the human faces around him. These were the same weak primitives who had been protecting his life for 8 years. The same species that was making his mighty army bleed for every inch of their planet. Han Sol spoke again, her voice still calm and professional. "Sir, may I ask you a question?" The Emperor nodded, though he was not sure why. "When you decided to invade our world, did you know that humans were already serving in your personal guard?" ZYXTara thought about it. The answer came to him slowly, like a terrible realization. "No," he admitted. "I never bothered to learn where my guards came from. I never looked at their faces or asked their names." "Then how could you judge our entire species," Han Sol asked, "if you never really looked at us at all?" The question hung in the air like a weapon that had found its target. The Emperor stared at the 6 humans who had risked their lives for him countless times, while outside his chamber, reports continued to arrive about humans who were dying rather than surrender to his army. For the first time in his long life, ZYXTara began to wonder if he had made the biggest mistake in the history of his empire. As the 3rd month of the siege began, Emperor ZYXTara found himself doing something he had never done before. He was watching his guards. Really watching them, not just seeing them as silent figures in armor who stood around his room. Every day, the Emperor studied how Choi Jin moved. The human guard never walked randomly around the room. Every step had a purpose. He always positioned himself where he could see all the doors and windows. When other people entered the room, Jin would shift slightly so that he could protect the Emperor from any direction an attack might come from. Han Sol was different but equally careful. She seemed to notice dangers before the ship's sensors detected them. Once, she had suddenly stepped forward and knocked a drinking cup from the Emperor's hand just seconds before alarms warned that the liquid had been poisoned. When ZYXTara asked how she knew, Han Sol simply said she had noticed that the servant who brought the drink was sweating and nervous. All 6 of the human guards worked together like parts of one machine. They communicated with tiny hand signals and slight movements of their eyes. After 8 years of working together, they could coordinate their actions without speaking a word. It was like watching a deadly dance performed by people who trusted each other completely. The more the Emperor watched, the more he realized how wrong he had been. These humans were not weak or clumsy. They moved with smooth grace that made his other alien guards look awkward. They were always alert, always ready, always professional. One night, as explosions from the planet below lit up the darkness of space with flashes of orange and red light, the Emperor finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind for weeks. "Why do you still protect me?" he said to Choi Jin, who was standing at his usual position near the main door. "Your own people are dying down there because of my orders. I could have you all executed tomorrow and no one would question my decision. So why do you continue to guard my life?" Jin was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the flashing lights of the battle below. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm and thoughtful. "Because we gave our word, sir. When we accepted this assignment 8 years ago, we swore an oath to protect you. Humans do not break their promises lightly, even when keeping them becomes very difficult." He paused, still watching the explosions. "Besides, maybe by protecting you, we can find a way to end this war without everyone having to die." The words hit Emperor ZYXTara like a physical blow to his crystal body. He stared at Jin, then at the other 5 human guards who continued their watch around the room. These people, these humans he had called weak and pathetic, were maintaining their duty even while their own species fought and died because of his invasion. As he watched his guards continue their vigil through the night, protecting the very person who was trying to destroy their home, the Emperor finally understood the terrible mistake he had made. No weak species could have fought his mighty empire to a standstill for 3 months. No weak species could inspire the kind of loyalty that would make someone die to protect their enemy. The humans were not weak. They were the strongest beings he had ever encountered, and their strength came from something his empire had never possessed. The next morning, Emperor ZYXthara did something that shocked everyone in his fleet. He called off the invasion. Standing in his command center with holographic images of all his fleet commanders projected around him, the Emperor made an announcement that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Behind him, his 6 human guards stood at attention, their presence now a symbol of everything he was about to say. Commanders of the Galactic Dominion, ZYXthara began, his crystal body glowing with steady blue light. I am ordering an immediate end to all military operations against the planet Earth. The holographic images of his generals and admirals flickered with shock and confusion. Several tried to speak at once, but the Emperor raised his hand for silence. I have discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about humanity, he continued. Their greatest strength was never their technology or their weapons. It was something we never possessed, the ability to turn enemies into allies through honor and sacrifice. Today, I offer Earth not conquest, but alliance. He gestured toward his human guards. Any empire that could produce warriors willing to die for those who wronged them is not weak. They are the strongest force in the galaxy, and I would rather have them as friends than as enemies. As the alien fleet began its withdrawal from Earth's solar system, Choi Jin approached the Emperor privately. His expression was serious and unreadable. Sir, there is something you should know. Our Earth Command gave us one final secret order before we took this assignment 8 years ago. ZYXthara looked at him curiously. What kind of order? If the invasion of Earth began and you could not be reasoned with, we were ordered to eliminate you. Jin's voice remained perfectly calm and professional. We chose to fulfill our oath to protect you instead. We protected you anyway. The Emperor stared at the human who had served him faithfully for 8 years. This man could have ended the entire war with a single action at any time, but instead chose to honor his promise to protect the very person who was attacking his home world. In that moment, as he looked into Choi Jin's steady eyes, ZYXthara finally understood what it truly meant to be human. It meant keeping your word even when it hurt. It meant protecting others even when they did not deserve it. It meant being strong enough to choose honor over revenge. The Emperor's crystal body glowed with a new color, deep purple, the shade of respect and understanding.